I'd been with Titan Tech for over a decade. Long nights, weekends in the office. I'd sacrificed everything, my health, my family, my entire life, just to climb that damn ladder. But it had always felt worth it. I was close. I could feel the promotion coming. The next step, right around the corner. Then, one morning, I checked my email. Your position has been terminated. That was it. No explanation. Just that cold sentence, sitting there in black and white. The air in the office felt too still, too silent, as if the walls were closing in on me. I stared at it for what felt like forever. What the hell? I'd put in more hours than anyone, more sacrifice than anyone. This couldn't be real. I had to be missing something. I hit refresh, hoping for some clarification, some sign that this was a mistake. Nothing. I stood there, frozen. The screen in front of me didn't make sense. The years, the effort, it was like they'd meant nothing. My mind was a fog of confusion, disbelief. Everything I had worked for, gone in a single sentence. Then the phone buzzed. It was Lisa. What happened? She asked, her voice tight with concern. I don't know yet, I lied. But the truth was starting to settle in, a sharp pain gnawing at me. They'd just tossed me aside. I'd given them everything, and for what? I didn't even know what to say anymore. I'd spent more time at Titan than I had with her, with the kids. And now, it was like none of it mattered. As the minutes passed, my confidence, what little was left, started to crumble. I wasn't a success. I was just another guy, discarded, forgotten. The dread of telling Lisa, telling my family, was worse than the actual firing. What did I even have left? My phone buzzed again, and it was a news alert. Titan Tech had just promoted Carl. Carl. The guy I'd trained, the guy who always played second fiddle to me, the one I'd thought would stay in the shadow. But now, he had what was supposed to be mine. That promotion, that office. It hit me like a punch to the gut. All these years, this was how it ended, with Carl getting what I deserved. I spent the next few weeks in a haze of rejection. Apply, wait, ghosted. Apply, wait, rejected. I'd wake up in the morning, shuffle through emails, and pray for something to change. But nothing did. The only thing that changed was how bad it hurt each time I got passed over. The world moved on without me, and I was just stuck. And Carl was everywhere. Titan Tech was parading him around like their golden boy. The promotion I'd busted my ass for, the office I thought I'd be in, the corner window with the skyline view, it was all his now. Every update I saw on social media, every new press release, I could see Carl's face grinning back at me, living the life I thought I'd have. I was pissed. I was disgusted. But more than anything, I just felt invisible. Then there was Lisa. She didn't get it. I'd spent a decade making sure Titan Tech was my life, and now that it wasn't, I had nothing to show for it. But to her, it was just a matter of getting back on the horse, pulling myself together. Dave, she said one night at dinner, her voice tight with something I couldn't quite place. I'm tired of waiting around for you to snap out of it. You need to start pulling your weight. We're not getting any younger. I stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in like a stone in my gut. What does that mean exactly? You know what it means, she shot back, pushing her plate away. I'm over being the one carrying this load. You've been stuck in this rut for how long? Months now? You can't just sit around feeling sorry for yourself. I felt my chest tighten, a familiar mix of frustration and helplessness creeping in. I opened my mouth, but the words got stuck. She wasn't wrong. She wasn't. But it didn't feel like she understood what it was like. I just wanted something, anything to click, to not feel like I was drowning every day with no way out. And now, she was starting to lose patience with me. I didn't say anything back. I couldn't. Instead, I shoved another bite of food in my mouth, chewing until it lost all taste. The silence between us stretched thin, like a thread ready to snap. By the time we were done eating, I was sure of one thing. I wasn't just losing my career. I was losing her too. The woman who used to be my partner, my equal, was starting to pull away. And it wasn't just the job anymore. It was me. I wasn't enough for her, and I couldn't figure out how to fix it. Later that week, she brought up taking a weekend trip with her friends. She didn't ask if I wanted to go or if I needed her to stay. She just mentioned it, and I didn't argue. I didn't have the heart to. Yeah, you deserve it, I said, my voice flat. Go have fun. I watched her pack her bags, and part of me wanted to scream, wanted to tell her I wasn't okay with it, that I needed her to stay. But I didn't, because she did deserve it. She deserved to get away from me. That night, after she left, I sat on the couch, numb, flicking through job listings. Every email was more of the same, nothing. And then, just as I was about to call it a night, I heard the sound of something thudding against the door. A letter. I walked over and picked it up, glancing at the return address. It was from the patent office. I hadn't thought about it in years, not since that late-night project I'd worked on, the software architecture I'd built. I opened it, half expecting it to be some formality, some update. But when I read it, my pulse spiked. The patent was active. It was mine. The thing I'd created, the thing I thought no one would care about, was finally real. And suddenly, everything about this failure, this mess, it didn't seem so hopeless. Titan Tech thought they could throw me away? Fine. But this was mine. I could use this. I had something now. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of control. I sat there, staring at the patent paperwork, letting the reality of it sink in. The feeling was strange, like I was seeing a way out of a cage I hadn't even known I was in. For so long, I'd been drowning in rejection. But now, I had something. Something of my own. Something that could hurt them. I dove into the details. The language in the patent was clear. It was mine. Not Titan Tech's, not Carl's. It was my work, my brainchild. I remembered the long nights I spent coding, tweaking that damn blueprint. The countless hours when I couldn't see my family, couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it was all in here. This little piece of paper, this intellectual property, was the only thing that had truly belonged to me through it all. It hit me then, the realization that Titan Tech had taken everything. My time, my dedication, my loyalty. They pushed me out, tossed me aside, and replaced me with Carl. But this was mine, and I was done letting them think they could screw me over. The idea started to form, slow at first, like a whisper in the back of my mind. Maybe I could make them pay. Maybe I didn't need to beg for a job. Maybe I could force them to deal with me on my terms. I pulled out my phone and dialed Jim. He was the one who had helped me with the early stages of that project. Back when I still had a bit of hope left, that Titan Tech might actually value it. I hadn't talked to him in years, but I needed someone who could look at this with fresh eyes. "Jim," I said when he picked up, "I need you to take a look at something. I've got the patent on that software architecture we developed." There was a pause on the other end. "You're kidding, right?" "No," I said. "It's active. It's mine. Completely. I don't think Titan Tech even knows yet." I could hear Jim's skepticism in his voice. "You're still holding on to that old thing? That was years ago. The tech world moves fast, Dave. I doubt anyone's going to care. Trust me, Jim, this is big. This could be worth a lot, and I need your help to figure out how to leverage it." There was another long silence before Jim spoke. "All right, you've got my attention. Let's talk." We spent the next hour going over the details. The more I talked, the more I realized what I was holding. This patent wasn't just a relic of a failed project. It was a gold mine. If I played it right, I could make Titan Tech regret everything they did to me. I could push them into a corner where they'd have to pay me what I deserved, or more. By the end of the call, Jim's tone had shifted. "Look, I'm not a lawyer, Dave, but I think you need someone who can really make this work for you, someone who knows the ropes. You need Lydia Alvarez." I frowned. "Who?" "Lydia Alvarez. She's one of the best in the business, ruthless, smart, and she doesn't take crap from anyone. If you want to take Titan Tech down, she's the one to help you." It hit me then. This wasn't just about a job. It wasn't about moving on. I had a weapon now, and I was ready to use it. What had once felt like a failure was now my ticket to something bigger than I ever imagined. I reached out to Lydia Alvarez the next morning. Her reputation preceded her, and I didn't waste any time. I was still feeling the high from the patent, that strange sense of power that had taken over me. But I knew I needed someone with the right skills to make this work. Within hours, she called me back. "Dave, I've looked into the details of your patent," she said, her voice sharp, confident, like she was already in control. "This is big. You've got something that could cost Titan Tech a lot more than they realize." I wasn't used to people talking to me like this, like I mattered, like my next move actually meant something. "I just want to know my options," I said, trying to sound like I wasn't as nervous as I felt. "I'll help you with that," she said. "Let's meet tomorrow. I'll have a strategy ready for you. In the meantime, don't make any contact with Titan Tech. Let them come to you." I agreed. It felt right to let them sweat, to let them wonder how far I was willing to push this. The ball was in my court now. But even as I felt like I was gaining control, a weight pressed down on me that I couldn't shake. Lisa. She had been pushing me, trying to get me to snap out of it for weeks now. But what did she know about it? She wasn't the one who had given everything to a company that had just tossed me aside. She didn't get that this wasn't just about money or jobs. It was about dignity, about respect. And I could feel her pulling away, like she was losing patience with me. She wasn't the same anymore. She wasn't the one who had suffered all these years. I had. And now, I had something I could use to take back control. But even as the satisfaction of that thought began to settle in, I couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in my chest. Was this going too far? Was I willing to risk everything for some sense of revenge? Or was I just trying to make up for all the time I'd lost? Before I could think about it too long, my phone buzzed. It was Lydia again. "Dave, I've been watching Titan Tech," she said. "They're in a bind. Their $500 million merger with ArcTech, it's on the brink of collapse because of intellectual property issues, your patent being one of the biggest hurdles." I felt a cold rush of excitement. This was it. This was the leverage I needed to push them into a corner. But then that old feeling crept back in, anxiety. The stakes were high, and I was in control, but for how long? "Isn't it just business?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's more than business," Lydia replied. "They can't afford to let you win this, not with everything on the line, but they don't know yet who they're dealing with. You." It felt like a strange kind of power, having something over a company that had once controlled my life, but it was also terrifying. I wasn't sure if I was prepared for the fallout. Then my phone buzzed again, and this time it was Lisa. I could tell from the way she'd called. Something was off. "Dave, where the hell are you?" Her voice was tight, frantic. "What's going on? I've been trying to reach you." I could hear the frustration in her voice, but I didn't have the time or energy for it, not now. I looked at the phone, weighing whether to pick it up, but instead, I kept my focus on Lydia. "Lydia, I need to make a decision," I said, my voice steady now. "How far can I push them?" "Let them come to you," Lydia said again. "If you play this right, they'll have no choice but to give you what you want." I glanced at the screen. Lisa was calling again. But I wasn't ready to deal with her yet, not when I finally had the upper hand in my life. "All right," I said to Lydia. "I'll wait." The moment I stepped into the conference room, the cold, sleek atmosphere hit me. The glass walls, the polished wood table, it all screamed corporate, sterile, like they expected me to shrink. I stood at the door for a moment, letting the weight of it all settle in. This wasn't just a meeting anymore. This was a confrontation. And I wasn't going to let them make me feel small again. Mason Caldwell, the CEO, stood up as I entered, his smile wide and fake. He extended his hand like we were old friends, like nothing had happened between us, like he hadn't been part of the machine that had chewed me up and spit me out. "Dave," Mason said, his voice smooth, his handshake firm. "Good to see you again." I forced a smile. "Yeah, good to see you too." I wasn't buying any of it. This was the same guy who'd always made me feel like a cog in his little system. The same guy who never had the time to really acknowledge the work I put in, until now. Now he was all charm, all pleasantries. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. We sat down, and the lawyers on both sides exchanged polite nods. They all had the same corporate look, too sharp, too rehearsed. They'd probably dealt with people like me all the time, people who were desperate to make a deal, to take whatever scraps they offered. "Look, Dave," Mason began, his voice dropping to a more conciliatory tone. "We both know this situation isn't ideal, but let's be realistic. Titan Tech's had a lot of changes lately and—" "Save it," I cut him off, leaning forward just enough to make my point. "Let's get to the part where we talk about what you're offering me." Mason blinked, but he recovered quickly. "Of course, we'd like to extend a severance package. You'll get a generous payout for your time with us. Additionally, we can offer you a consulting position to help with the transition." I felt my jaw tighten. The offer sounded nice, if I were some kind of loser begging for a handout. But that wasn't why I was here, not anymore. Lydia spoke up, cutting through the bullshit in an instant. "You're missing a few details, Mason," she said, her voice calm, but like she knew exactly what she was doing. "Dave holds the patent on the software architecture. It's his work, his brainchild. If Titan Tech wants to continue using it, you're going to have to pay for it. And not just a couple of chump change payments, this is worth millions. I saw the shift in Mason's face. The smooth, polished demeanor cracked just a little. His eyes flickered for a second, like he was trying to process what was just laid out in front of him. He wasn't expecting this. He probably thought I'd be willing to walk away quietly, to take the severance and move on. But that was never going to happen. "Hold on," Mason said, trying to regain control. "Let's not jump to any conclusions here. We can discuss the value of the patent and what it means for Titan Tech, but I'm not here to negotiate out of pity," I said, cutting him off again. "I'm here because you've got something I want, and if you want this patent, you'll pay for it, and you'll pay well." Mason's eyes narrowed, and for a second, I thought he was going to backpedal and offer me a bribe. But instead, he leaned forward slightly, a hint of desperation creeping into his voice. "Dave," he said, softening, like he was trying to appeal to whatever old bond we might have had. "We're in the middle of something huge right now, with the ArcTech merger. If you could just work with us, we could get this all resolved quickly. We could make you part of the team again." The words hit me like a slap. He thought he could pull me back in with an offer? He thought I'd fall for that crap again? "No," I said, my voice flat. "I'm not interested in your offers. You had your shot, Mason. You threw me out the door. Now, I'm holding all the cards." I leaned back in my chair, watching his face tighten. He realized what I already knew. There was no going back for me. This was bigger than a job offer. This was about making them pay for what they did to me. Lydia smiled, a small but knowing grin. She could tell the game had shifted. "I suggest we all take some time to think this through," she said, standing up. "Because Titan Tech isn't going to get off that easy." Mason's smile was gone now. He knew what was coming, but it was too late. He'd already made his play, and I wasn't playing anymore. As I stood and walked out of that room, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. I walked into the house that night, and I knew the moment I saw Lisa sitting on the couch, arms crossed, that the conversation was coming. She wasn't even trying to hide her frustration. The tension in the air was thick. I didn't have the energy to pretend everything was fine. "You didn't take it, did you?" she asked, her voice sharp. I stood by the door for a second, staring at her, weighing the truth. It was heavy in my chest, but I wasn't going to sugarcoat it, not anymore. "No," I said, dropping my keys on the counter. "I didn't." She let out a long breath, like she'd been holding it in for too long. "Why?" "Dave, they're offering you a job. You're not even going to consider it?" "I'm not interested," I said flatly, my voice steady but not kind. "I'm not going back to them, Lisa. Not for anything." Her eyes narrowed, and I saw the hurt flash in them. "Why? Is your pride really worth more than this family? Than what we've been through? You can't put your damn pride before all of this. We're drowning here." I felt something crack inside me. The words she was throwing at me, pride, family, cut deeper than I wanted to admit. But I wasn't going to let her twist this. Not anymore. "This isn't about pride, Lisa," I shot back, my voice rising just a little. "It's about respect. They threw me out like I didn't matter. After everything I did for that company, they threw me away. I'm not going back to that, not for a paycheck or a position. I won't let them do that to me again." She stood up, shaking her head, looking at me like she didn't even recognize me. "You think you're some kind of hero here? You're not. You're putting all of this, our family, on the line for your damn ego. Do you even hear yourself?" I felt my chest tighten, and for a moment I wanted to yell, to tell her she didn't get it. But instead, I stood there, the weight of it all settling around me. We were both right, in a way. This had become bigger than just Titan Tech. It wasn't just the job, or the patent, or the money. It was me trying to figure out who the hell I was without all of that. There was a long silence between us, like an ocean I couldn't cross. Lisa's face softened just a bit, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. She didn't look at me the way she used to. She didn't see the partner she married anymore. The distance between us felt like a chasm. I knew something then, something I hadn't fully grasped before. This fight wasn't just against Titan Tech. It was against myself. The man I'd been, the one who thought his worth was tied up in the company, in the job, in everything I'd sacrificed. It was all gone now, and I didn't know who I was supposed to be without it. Just as I was about to say something else, my phone rang. I glanced at it. ArcTech. I hesitated for a second before picking it up. "Hello? Mr. Davis?" A smooth voice on the other end. "This is Lauren from ArcTech. We've been following your patent situation, and we'd like to discuss a direct negotiation for the rights. We believe this could be mutually beneficial, and we're prepared to offer you a deal." I froze for a second, the weight of what she was saying hitting me all at once. ArcTech, not Titan Tech, not Carl. They were bypassing them entirely. "Yeah, sure," I said, my voice shaky. "Let's talk." I hung up the phone, still in shock. I looked at Lisa, but I couldn't find the words to explain what just happened. She just stared at me, waiting for something to click. But I was already somewhere else. The meeting with ArcTech went better than I could have imagined. The executives, sharp, no nonsense, recognized the value of the patent immediately. There was no hesitation, no trying to lowball me or act like they were doing me a favor. They knew exactly what they had in front of them. They laid out their offer, far more generous than anything Titan Tech had even hinted at. It wasn't just about the money, it was the control. They saw me as a partner, not a cog in a machine. And the best part? No pretending like they cared about me after the fact. They wanted me because of what I could do, not because of some sense of obligation. As they finalized the deal, I felt a strange calm wash over me. For the first time in months, I wasn't the guy who'd been discarded. I was the one in control of his future, making decisions that weren't dictated by anyone else's agenda. It hit me, hard. I had fought to get here. I wasn't the same person who had walked into Titan Tech, desperate for validation. I'd been humiliated, tossed aside, and left for dead. But now I was the one who made the rules. Just as the paperwork was being signed, my phone buzzed. I glanced at it. It was an email from Titan Tech. The subject line was too familiar. Settlement proposal. I didn't even open it. I hit delete without a second thought. They could keep their pathetic offer. I wasn't interested in settling anymore. I called Lydia right after, my hands still shaking a bit from the adrenaline. "Lydia," I said, my voice steady but with a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. "It's done. We signed the deal with ArcTech." "Congratulations, Dave," she replied, her tone like she already knew. "You made the right choice." I couldn't stop the smile that crept up on my face. "I don't know how to thank you. This is huge. You helped me get here. You did all the hard work, Dave. You just needed to remember who you were. I'm glad you figured it out." I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in months. It wasn't just the deal. It was the realization that I could rebuild, that I wasn't trapped by a failed past or the expectations of people who never truly saw me. On the way home, I stopped by a bar. It was quiet, just a handful of people scattered around. I took a seat at the bar, ordered a whiskey, and let the silence settle in. The weight that had been hanging over me for so long was gone. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, I wasn't fighting alone. I took a sip of my drink, watching the amber liquid swirl in the glass, and felt the calm before whatever came next. Then my phone buzzed again. It was Lisa. I stared at the screen for a second, my finger hovering over the answer button, but I didn't press it. I didn't need to hear her apology. I didn't need to hear anything from her. I was done.